What's going on, guys? I'm so sorry if you happen to watch the first version of this video with that terrible sound quality. We're trying out different sorts of audio methods to make sure our sound quality is great. As you know, we use some various equipment here. We're in early days of the channel, very, very early days, and we tend to get some stuttering on the audio. It's not as good as we want, so we're trying different sort of setups out. But I wanted to get this video out anyway, so we've gone back to our original methods of doing things just to bang this video out for you guys and get it up to date. Because I saw some people, we had sort of 100 views before it managed to take it down. So let's get back into it. It's Elemental Shaman Day, and Elemental Shamans are rocking and rolling these days. They've had a nice damage boost because of changes towards the Fire Elemental and so on. They were a little bit far behind, but now they've pushed them back up into the balance, as always happens with Blizzard. Never worry. I see a lot of people asking me, do you think this class is going to be top DPS by the time it comes out? Doesn't matter about being top DPS, guys, as long as your class is competitive, because we're all pretty even at the moment in the DPS world. We're quite happy with just bringing a player who's playing it decently over a specific class. Once our raid composition is set, we're happy with that, and Elemental Shamans are right back up there again. So we're going to use the usual story, guys. We're going to do talents, we're going to do glyphs, we're going to do everything about playing your class in this first part, and then second part we're going to run you through a heroic, and we're going to show you exactly how to rock and roll and really be a total baller and a boss on your early days Shaman. So this is Bang, EU Sylvanas, B-A-N-G, bang bang. Any get questions about my UI, guys, just check my channel. There's a full UI video on there. What we're talking about with that, with Bang. Bang, if you ever saw the Restoration Shaman, I did a bit of a challenge there. I took him in with no enchants. He was wearing greens. He had item level 329. And I healed a full heroic without any enchants, any gemming whatsoever. So since then he's advanced a little touch, but his elemental gear was a little bit behind his resto gear. Mainly the trinkets. We had some decent trinkets, and that brought him up to item level 337. So I'll try to keep it as basic as possible, guys, because I always like to do the initial basic video, which is what these are, looking from a perspective of somebody who's just capped, just hit level 85 and wants to dive into the heroics to start getting some gear together. What you don't want to be doing is throwing thousands of gold at your character where he's wearing his greens and his blues and his very, very low gear, and then just replacing it very, very quickly, either by getting an epic item within a couple of days of getting some points, or even one day if you're hardcore farming, and then having to regem and re-enchant it again all the way there. So this is Bang. He's got he's got 0 enchants. Absolutely 0 enchants, not an enchant amongst him. So how do we look at this? We've just capped just a little affair. If we want to get into a dungeon, we don't want to be kicked, we don't want to be abused. We've got all these elitist arseholes running around now looking for dungeon who are saying, you're not doing 20k DPS, you're so bad, please get out of my dungeon, I can't believe you squandered me with your presence. We don't want that, guys. So what do? First of all, Reforging. Reforging is extremely cheap. If you didn't know, Reforging is based on the item, okay, guys? So let's look at what we're looking for. First of all, we obviously want male items. We want male items generally with some spirit on and intellect. We want intellect male items. We don't want our agi stuff that our hunter boys play with. We want the intellect male that our resto shaman brothers are also wearing, alright, guys? Now, first things first, we want spell hit. We need to be able to hit our mobs, because if you haven't got cap spell hit, either you're going to miss completely, or it's going to be partially resisted, and a lot of the damage is wasted off a cast that you just made. So you want to be making sure you hit. The hit cap is 17%. Look in your spell and your character pane, go to spell, go to hit, check your hit percentage. You're not going to be able to hit cap in very early gear without having to do something ridiculous like gemming for hit, and we never want to gem for hit, guys. I'll talk about that shortly. So we're looking to get hit from spirit. Male elemental shamans have a talent that turns spirit into hit, so we're not wasting that items, and that also allows Blizzard to create good items that can be used both for resto and elemental. So we want our 17% hit cap. So what we've got to do is a stat priority. Our number one stat across everything all the time is intellect. As an elemental shaman, intellect, intellect, intellect. More spell power, more mana, more casts. Everything we do is hitting harder. Intellect is the key. We can't reforge for intellect. So what do we do then is we look at our other stats. What else is important? So we want intellect items, great. The next and most important is hit or spirit. So we need to get hit and spirit together. Now remember, if you've got an item that's got spirit and you're way below the hit cap, you can turn another stat into just hit, and then you've got spirit and hit on the same item if you're really, really low. Okay, that is a little tip for you there. After that becomes haste. Haste is the next most important, and mastery. Alright, guys, haste and mastery are very, very close to each other. An elemental shaman's mastery, elemental overload. Every time you fire off a spell, such as lightning bolt, chain lightning, lava burst, it has a chance to copy that spell and fire it again for free with a little bit of reduced damage on it. So haste and mastery are sort of together in how powerful they are. Way at the bottom though is crit. Crit is right down in the basement. Crit is not very good for us. We get crit from talents. We have guaranteed crits from stuff like Lava Burst. So crit is not particularly great for us, guys, alright? So we want to use as much hit as possible that we can get. Then we want haste and mastery on the item. And then if we've got crit on the item, that is our first protocol to reforge. Let's have a quick goosey at what we've got going on over here. Okay, so we had some Ionic Gloves, item level 333. They came with some Spirit, and they came with Crit. So what I've done there is just taken off that Crit, like we said, and turn that into Haste. Haste is always good, guys. Every little bit of Haste is going to give us a shorter global cooldown, allow us to fire off extra spells. Our things like Flame Shock are going to tick that extra one. Really good, guys. Get some Haste on there. So get rid of that Crit straight away. Moving down, we've got some green belt. Already had Haste on it. Left that well alone. A Spirit Haste belt. Yummy, yummy. Now these legs are from my healing spec. I haven't got anything to replace them with. That's why it's got that 20 and 20 spirit gem in there. Let me just talk to you a little bit about that. They had mastery on anyway, and mastery is as good as haste, so I've left it well alone. When you're gemming, you want to gem for intellect as much as humanly possible. Now, what you want to do is look at an item. What is the bonus if I gem it properly? If it's not 20 intellect, you need to be putting a red gem in there and ignoring the bonus. Now, because this is from my resto set, that has got a 20 and 20 spirit gem in there. It's not too bad because I needed some hit, but it's not ideal. I should have 2 red gems in there, guys. But I've got the red gem in there and a purple gem just to get me that extra spirit that I use, which is majoritarily restoration is what I play on this guy. All right, guys? Again, we got these boots. Nothing special. I had mastery on. Mastery's fine. A spirit haste ring, fine. Just going down all the same sort of story. We had some crit on there and no spirit, so I've just gone ahead and turned that crit into spirit. Ideally, you want to be turning things into spirit because spirit is a base stat, and when you get things like Blessing of Kins, a Mark of the Wild, that is going to be buffed a little touch more, so you're going to get a little touch more hit. All right, guys, it's something to bear in mind. We've got the trinket just from alchemy, that is his only epic. The rest of it is just the 3 red gems to activate the meta gem. You want the burning gem. The burning meta gem is going to give you 54 intellect and 3% increased crit damage. I well recommend picking up this gem and activating it if possible, even with cheap red gems. 54 intellect and 3% increased critical damage is such a huge bonus to you, especially when you're firing off big fat lava bursts, alright guys? So that is the general spec. As you see, no enchants. Let's get into the talents on our bad boy bang. What up? Elemental tree, obviously. Okay, nothing spectacular in the elemental tree. Could do with a little bit of a revamp, I think. But let's look at it anyway. Concussion, increases damage done by lightning bolt, chain lightning, thunderstorm, blah, blah, blah. Nothing special there, just a flat damage boost. Of course, we want that. Convection, you're going to need convection in these early days. 10% reduced mana on your damaging offensive spells is huge and will stop you having these mana issues. We do have mana issues in the early days as an elemental shaman, especially if you start casting idiot spells like Earthquake. You're going to have some mana issues. We've got Thunderstorm to offset that a little bit, but it's not always there, and we want to make sure we can DPS all the time, and we're not thinking about using something crazy like mana potions. Just really bad news. Acuity, increase your crit chance. This is why crit's so garbage, because we get things like Acuity, increase the 3% crit chance. Call of Flame, our first interesting talent. Increase the damage done by a fire totems and fire nova by 20%, and the damage of your lava burst spell by 10%. Now, we want to be keeping lava burst on cooldown all the damn time, guys, so it's really important that you get this talent. But let's look at this. This is where our AoE comes from. You might think it comes from Earthquake, but it doesn't. The Earthquake is not going to shatter the buildings around you. It's absolute garbage. It's like the pizza that's been left on the floor for a week. Really don't like Earthquake. It needs a full revamp. A good idea that went wrong by Blizzard. But now we've got Call of Flame, which gives us another option for AoE. When your fire nova damages a target, the duration of your Flame Shock effect on that target is increased by up to 6 seconds. What does this mean? It means we can spread our Flame Shocks all around. We can Flame Shock one target, we can Flame Shock another one, and using Fire Nova to keep regenerating these Flame Shocks. They're not going to expire. So if we've got a heavy AoE situation, we can keep Flame Shock ticking on absolutely everything. Problem with it, it takes a little while to get going, especially on multiple targets. Might not always benefit in the heroics as much as we'd like, but it's a good source of AoE. One issue with it is our Flame Totem, which causes the Fire Nova. It needs to be near the mobs, obviously, and as a range class, that's not always ideal for us. Our main Flame Totem is going to be Searing Totem, even over Magma Totem. In the AoE situations, we're going to be using Searing Totem. It needs to be close enough. It can cause us some little issues, and we'll look at that in the heroic demonstration. Reverberation, reduce the cooldown of your shock and wind shear by 1 second. Why do we need 2 points to get that down by a second? Because we have 2 shocks as an elemental shaman. We have Flame Shock, which we need to keep up to make our Lava Burst crit, and plus it's a great source of damage in itself. But we also have this talent Fulmination we'll get to in a second. Now, the problem we have as an Ellie Shaman is that sometimes Flame Shock and Fulmination, which means an Earth Shock, by the way, do not always line up ideally. So when you get your Fulmination and you want to fire off your Earth Shock, your Flame Shock might be about to expire, and everything inside you says you want to fire off that big Fulmination. Forget that. You need your flame shock to be ticking all the damn time, guys. So this is where this comes in handy, just to give us that flexibility to maybe get an extra second in there so we can get our earth shock off and our flame shock together and keep both of them running nicely. Elemental precision, increase your damage by 3%, fine. But this is the talent that also turns our spirit into hit. 100% of our spirit is going to turn into hit. Really important that you pick that up, guys. Rolling Thunder, when you deal damage with your lightning bolt or chain lightning while your lightning shield is active, you have a 60% chance to recover 2% of your mana, yum yum yum, and generate an additional lightning shield charge. Okay, so forget water shield. We are not doing water shield anymore as an elemental shaman. We are all about lightning shield. Lightning shield needs to be on so we can generate these orbs, and the reason why is this is what I just spoke about. It's fulmination. Fulmination. When you have more than 3 lightning charges active, your earth shock spell will consume the extra charges, instantly dealing their total damage to the enemy target. So what does that tell us? It means that, well, more stacks we've got, the better. The maximum amount of lightning charges we can get on our lightning shield is 9. So when we hit 9, we're going to get this aura on our screen. It's going to tell us that that is fulmination. You have maximum amount of lightning charges, you should earth shock. Now, what I've just spoke about with flame shock and earth shock not lining up nicely, this is where you need to make a little bit of decision. This is the answer, guys. Anything between 7 and 9 stacks of lightning shield, track it here or track it with a class timer mod like me. See there, lightning shield 3. Anything between there is going to give you enough damage that it's worth casting. So if you look at your flame shock and it's got 6 or 7 seconds left and you've got 7 lightning charges, go ahead and fire off your fulmination. Get it out there, get it done, so your cooldown on your shocks is back to redo the flame shock. That's what's important, alright guys? So 7 and 9 between there with fulmination is worth casting. Moving back up, we've got Elemental Focus. After landing a non-periodic critical strike with Fire, Frost or Nature, you gain Clear Casting. Clear Casting reduces the mana cost of your next 2 damage or healing spells by 40%. What do we need to, where are we guaranteed a crit? One is Lava Burst. If we have Flame Shock on the target, our Lava Burst will always crit. Guaranteed 100%. No matter what your target's resilience is, or anything sort of PvE wise, we have a 100% chance to cast Lava Burst, and it's going to crit if we have Flame Shock rolling. That's going to give us this debuff, buff, should I say, very, very regularly to reduce our mana cost. It also then transfers into Elemental Oath. While Clear Casting from Elemental Focus is active, you deal 10% more spell damage. Now feel that. What does that mean in our opening? We need to crit as soon as humanly possible to get this 10% damage buff up, which means our general intro is going to be Flame Shock, Lava Burst, get that Elemental Oath up. Also, in addition, party and raid members within 100 yards receive a 5% bonus crit chance. So we get this 5% bonus crit chance. It's very important that you Lava Burst as soon as possible and all the damn time to guarantee this buff stays up. Very, very important. Alright guys? We've got Elemental Reach, just going to increase our range on our Fire Nova and our Lightning Bolt, so we don't have to be too close. We can keep some range. Again, a little bit tricky when we're AoEing. We'll look at that in the Heroic demonstration, but in general it's a nice range upgrade. We've then got Lava Flows, our next interesting talent. Increase the critical strike damage bonus of your Lava Burst spell by an additional 24%, so our Lava Burst is going to start hitting like a big fat truck. And every little bit of intellect is going to buff and be multiplied by this all the way through, including your Meta Gem. And the periodic damage of your Flame Shock by 60%. In addition, this is important, when your Flame Shock is dispelled, you gain 90% haste for 6 seconds. So cool. If we could get some mobs that could actually dispel us sometimes, it's more of a PvP talent, I know, but 90% spell haste, oh, there are some mobs in PvE that dispel. Look out for them, because if you get that buff, yum yum yum, it's like a little bloodlust for yourself. Okay, our first major DPS cooldown, guys, Elemental Mastery. When we turn it on, our next Lightning Bolt or whatever is going to be instant cast. Also, our Fire, Frost and Nature damage is increased by 15%, and we get 20% spell haste for 15 seconds. Huge buff, and this is key to the whole spec, guys. Elemental Mastery, we want to be using it all the time. It's got a 3-minute cooldown. We want to be firing it off. Really, really important, alright guys? We need to be getting that off as soon as possible, especially in our boss fights. Let's get it going, get these instant casts off, and start firing it off. Lightning Bolt is generally our longest cast spell, so you ideally want to be firing a Lightning Bolt off when you activate it. Activate your Elemental Mastery, fire for Lightning Bolt, instant cast, and then get going. You've got this 15% damage buff, 20% spell haste, major DPS cooldown, guys. Totemic Wrath, this needs a bit of a rework for me. I think Elemental Shamans, one, bring too many buffs. 2 buffs is too many for me as a standard thing. But this talent just doesn't give us anything else, really. It causes your Fire Totems to increase the spell power of the party by 10%. Pretty boring, pretty lackluster. Every other class who has a raid-wide buff also gets an extra little benefit for taking it. But there you go, it's nothing. It's not bad by any means. Feedback. This is important, guys. This is why we need to get our elemental mastery off as soon as possible. Your lightning bolt and chain lightning spells reduce the remaining cooldown of your elemental mastery by 3 seconds. Can you see now why haste and mastery come into their own? Because every time we fire off these lightning bolts and stuff, we're then reducing our elemental mastery cooldown back again, so we get our DPS cooldown better. So more stats really benefits an elemental shaman, which is why we suffer a little bit in low gear. So I'm not expecting wonders in our heroic dungeon. I'm just not, because these things work so well together that higher gear is going to start giving you some really crazy results. Lava Surge gives your Flame Shot periodic damage takes a 20% chance to reset the cooldowns of your Lava Burst spell. This is one reason why we need Flame Shot to be ticking all the damn time. It's the other reason that it's so annoying sometimes, is this thing tends to proc the second you fire off a Lava Burst, and you're probably not paying too much attention to where your Lava Burst button is for the cooldown to be up, and then suddenly you notice it's back off cooldown straight away, and you feel like a git, because keeping Lava Burst on cooldown is very integral to performing to max level, alright guys? So keep an eye out for Lava Surge. When it's going to proc in an inopportune moment, almost guaranteed. Final point is Earthquake. I picked it up because, well, you've got Elemental Warding, nothing great. Earth's Grass, not great for PvE. Earthquake does have its uses, however, it's very, very costly. It's 13,000 mana to cast it, and the damage isn't great. But if you've got, because our Flame Shock AoE rotation can take a hell of a long time, sometimes you're going to want to Earthquake just to make sure you're doing a little bit of damage. Especially on packs of really low health mobs, you're never going to have the chance to get enough Flame Shocks and Fire Novas off to make it worth it. Sometimes it's just worth casting off that Earthquake, but it's a pretty piss poor. Moving over to elemental weapons, we're just going to. This is a simple buff. It has a lot of words going on there. It does mention Unleash Elements. We have Flame Tongue on our weapons. We always make sure we imbue our weapon with Flame Tongue going into a dungeon. It's going to give us 40% more benefit to our spell power gain from Flame Tongue. Happy with that. And increase the effectiveness of ongoing benefits from your Unleash Elements by 50%. Unleash Elements with the Flame Tongue weapon is not particularly great. It's not an awesome DPS cooldown. In fact, I macro it into my Lava Burst. It gives us about, I think it's a 20% damage buff to flame spells for, you know, the next one you cast or whatever. It's pretty crap, to be honest, guys. Pretty garbage. Don't worry too much about Unleash Elements for Elemental. It's okay for performing really top level DPS, but for our basics, just getting into Heroic, not worth it. Improved shields increase the damage done by a lightning shield by 15%. You might be thinking, well, I don't expect to be hit all that much while we're in PvE. No, but sometimes we do get hit, and our other choice is to buff Storm Strike. There isn't a choice there, is there? We've got to pick this up. But basically what we're after is Totemic Reach. Increase the range of your Totems effects by 30%. That is really, really important. It's really important to make sure that our totems are doing their work, because we don't have the power of a blessing, which is just a buff, such as the paladins. We need to get our totems in a good position all the time. We need to be thinking about it, and then we've got the range there to make sure we're affecting everything. Alright, guys? So, ooh, Glyphs! Glyphs, preacher, you didn't do Glyphs! I'm doing the Glyphs now, man! Stop crying at me! Glyph of Flame Tongue weapon. Increase your spell crit by 2%. Flat, lovely, whilst Flame Tongue is active. We like it. Good, good, good. Glyph of Lava Burst. Your Lava Burst does more damage, and our other prime glyph there is Glyph of Lightning Bolt. Our Lightning Bolt is our filler spell. Sometimes, especially in early days, it's nice to fire off a Chain Lightning as well to keep that on cooldown, because it's more damage per cast time. DPCT, if you're a total turbo nerd and you know what that means. Increase the damage dealt by your Lightning Bolt by 4%. But we'll talk about that more in there. I also glyph my Thunderstorm. The other glyphs aren't too good. You've got Glyph of Totemic Recall, get 50% of the mana back. Always handy because you're going to be moving your totems around. Glyph of Lightning Shield, quite important for Ellie. It makes sure your Lightning Shield never goes below 3 charges. Fine, nothing wrong with that. So we can just forget about Lightning Shield once we've got it on. Glyph of Water Walking, no reagent, happy days. Glyph of Renewed Life, your re-ink doesn't require reagent, lovely, nothing wrong with that. Glyph of Thunderstorm, I like to take it for heroics. It's only in very endgame raids where you really need the knockback, so you might as well Glyph of Thunderstorm, make sure you're getting more mana back, and it does some nice damage if you happen to be moving, casting AoE or anything like that. Glyph of Thunderstorm so you can fire it off. And Glyph of Ghost Wolf, we get a nice 5% movement speed from our Ghost Wolf. Nothing special, nothing outrageous. The 3 primes are most important. Then for me, it's Glyph of Lightning Shield and Glyph of Totemic Recall. Everything else is sort of convenience. Alright, guys, so that is our Ellie Shaman. We're going to jump into Heroic now. I'm going to show you how to do some DPS on that guy. And hopefully we can pull off some pretty wonderful stuff on our Shaman. Let's catch you then.